Welcome to the Nameless.
I remembered the sound before anything else. The knock, soft but deliberate, coming from the inside of the wall. Not the door, the wall. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, counting the seconds between each knock, telling myself it had to be pipes or someone in the next room. That was when the phone on the nightstand rang, and the front desk asked me how my stay in room 11 was going. I told them I wasn't in room 11. The woman paused, then said, very calmly, "Yes, you are. I'd only planned to stay one night." At the time, I was driving west through a stretch of highway most people avoided unless they had to. It cut through what used to be a mining town before the mine dried up and the population followed. On the map, the town still had a name, but in real life, it was just a cluster of buildings leaning into the wind, with faded signs and boarded windows. I was between jobs, crashing on couches, trying to stretch what little money I had. When my car started overheating just before dusk, I pulled off at the first exit I saw. The motel sat a little off the road, like it had been nudged aside and forgotten. One long, single-story building, U-shaped around an empty pool filled with dead leaves and sand. The sign flickered even though there didn't seem to be enough power anywhere else to justify it. Vacancy buzzed, then went dark, then buzzed again. Inside the office, the air smelled like dust and old cleaner. A woman about my age stood behind the counter, flipping through a ledger instead of looking at a computer. She didn't smile, but she wasn't unfriendly either, just tired. "Just one night," I said. "Car trouble." She nodded and slid the ledger toward her. "Cash only." That should have been my first red flag, but I didn't have many options. She handed me a metal key with a square plastic tag, no number on it. "Which room?" I asked. She hesitated. 10. I took the key and went back outside. My room was at the far end of the building, just before the corner, room 10. The doors stuck when I opened it, then released with a sigh. Inside, it was exactly what you'd expect. Thin carpet, stiff bedspread, a little TV bolted to the dresser. Nothing fancy, but clean enough. The wall between my room and the next one was solid cinder block. No door on the other side, just blank wall. I remember thinking it was odd there was no room 11. The numbers went from 10 to 12 around the corner. I figured maybe they'd remodeled or something. Small towns do things their own way. That night, after my car cooled down, I lay on the bed scrolling through my phone, half listening to the wind outside. Around midnight, I heard footsteps on the gravel walkway. Slow, measured. They stopped right outside my door. I waited for a knock that never came. After a minute, the footsteps moved on. A little later, the knocking started, from the wall. It was faint at first, like someone tapping a knuckle to test the sound. 3 knocks, pause, 3 more, always the same rhythm. I pressed my ear to the wall and listened. There was no sound of breathing, no shifting, just the knocks. I told myself it was the plumbing, even though it didn't make sense. I turned up the TV and eventually fell asleep. In the morning, I went to the office to ask about it. The woman was there again, same ledger, same tired look. "Is there someone staying next to me?" I asked. "Room 11? She frowned. "There is no room 11. "That's what I thought," I said, "but I heard knocking from that wall all night." She stared at me for a long second, then looked down at the ledger. "Pipes," she said. "Old building." I nodded, but something about the way she avoided eye contact stuck with me. My car still wouldn't start, so I paid for another night. That afternoon, I walked around the property. The pool was dry, cracked concrete spiderwebbed with weeds. Behind the motel was a chain-link fence, and beyond that, nothing but dirt and scrub stretching out to the hills. No other buildings nearby. No place for someone to be standing outside that wall. That evening, as the sun went down, I noticed something else. The wall between my room and the empty space had a faint outline, like a door frame that had been plastered over. If you didn't know to look for it, you'd miss it, but once I saw it, I couldn't unsee it. The knocking started earlier that night. This time it wasn't rhythmic. It sounded impatient, like someone testing different spots on the wall. I sat on the bed, heart pounding, telling myself not to be ridiculous. I knocked back once, lightly, just to see what would happen. The knocking stopped. For a long time, there was nothing. Then, very slowly, something knocked back. One knock, right where my hand had been. I didn't sleep after that. The phone rang around 3 a.m. I jumped so hard I nearly knocked it off the nightstand. "Front desk," the woman said. "We had a complaint from room 11. You're being too loud." I couldn't speak at first. When I finally found my voice, it came out thin. "There is no room 11. Another pause, longer this time. "I'll take care of it," she said, and hung up. The next morning, I packed my things. I didn't care if the car ran or not. I was leaving. When I went to return the key, the office was empty. The ledger sat open on the counter. I don't know why I looked. Curiosity, I guess, or dread. The pages were filled with names and dates, written in careful handwriting. Each entry had a room number next to it. Mostly 1 through 10, then 12 through 20. But every few pages, there it was. Room 11. Always marked occupied, sometimes for one night, sometimes for weeks. No names, just a line drawn where the name should be. I felt stupid standing there, staring at it, but I couldn't shake the feeling that if I turned around, I'd see someone standing in the doorway. I left the key on the counter and walked out. The car started on the third try. I drove until the town disappeared in my rearview mirror and didn't stop until I hit the next city. I told myself it was over. Just a weird place, a tired clerk, my imagination filling in the gaps. For months, that worked. Then one night, I woke up to knocking. 3 soft taps from the wall beside my bed. I froze, listening. The apartment was quiet. No neighbors on that side. I told myself it was settling, old pipes, anything. The knocking came again, same rhythm, same pause. I moved out a week later. I started looking things up after that. Old records, newspaper archives. The town had burned once, decades ago. A fire started in the motel. One room had been sealed off during renovations after, deemed unsafe. The reports never said why. Just that it was easier to wall it up and skip the number than to tear it down completely. No bodies were ever found in that room. The motel closed a few years after my stay. The building was demolished not long after. There are pictures online of the empty lot where it used to stand. Just dirt and weeds now. No walls, no rooms. But every so often, when I stay somewhere unfamiliar, I'll hear it. Not every time, just enough to keep me from forgetting. 3 knocks from inside the wall, and I'll lie there, staring at the ceiling, thinking about a room that was never built, and wondering where someone goes when there's nowhere left to put them.